From the headlines that move us
to the plays on the field and the people making a difference.
It's news, sports, stories, and the people that make our community come alive.
This is the Heartbeat of Tampa Bay.
I'm Christopher Ingram.
And I'm Sarina Fazan. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And wow, what a treat today, Christopher.
We have a super fantastic guest. I've known this gentleman for about 15 years. When I was inducted into the Rotary Club, he came and did my induction speech, and just a great guy. Welcome, Governor Bob Martinez.
Well, it's so good to see you again, Chris and Zane. So much has passed since we last saw each other. I can't recall when, but it's been a while. And not as visible as I used to be, but I'm
well,
still
you're looking
great.
great.
Well, thank you.
You are 91
hey, I'm vertical.
years old.
What more can you want?
You're 91?
91.
What's your routine like? How do you keep looking so good?
Well, I walk 2 miles every morning. I used to walk at 4:30, but now that I've retired, I've moved it to about 9:30 in the morning. Or 10:30. My wife, Mary Jane, joins me a good number of the days of the week. We also go and do a little bit of physical fitness as well. And we take care of ourselves. You know, we eat well, we exercise, and have a lot of friends. We're always socializing with somebody. So we stay pretty current with what's going on. And as I said, you know, it's only been about a couple of months since I hung up my spikes after 68 years of being in the labor force. And so I thought it was time to do so, and getting adapted to it. And I'm already finding a lot of things. As I said, we know so many people, have so many friends. It's either we're calling or we're being called, and we're out a lot, you know, and we're having a good time. We haven't started traveling again because we got flooded during Helena. And we got back in July, and you know, a lot of things you have to be doing. So we're hoping to get in some kind of a travel schedule in the next month or two.
Well, you know what you're saying, Governor, is clearly, you know, to be physically fit and mentally fit as well, like keep active. But I have to say, I've always seen you as a huge Tampa Bay treasure. Your birthday is actually on Christmas Day, and truly, you are our gift.
Well, thank you.
You are our gift.
Thank you. Maybe because I was born Christmas Day, I became an only child. No siblings. And growing up there on Ivy Street in West Tampa, my cousins, the next one of age close to me was 8 years, so we never grew up as cousins together because of my coming first by a substantial margin in terms of the differences in age. I got to know them well later on when you mature and you get out of college and you begin running into them, but you know, it was one of those things, and that my parents, I was the depression, let's face it. How many kids can you have during the depression when things were so tough? I was born in 1934, the depression had just started, and I lived there till 1970 on Ivy Street. Our first house, Mary Jane and I bought, not bought, we had built. My grandfather gave us the lot.
Oh.
And
what a blessing.
And my dad co-signed the note because I didn't earn enough money together to co-sign the note that I would make the payments. And it was a modest two-bedroom, one-bath house, and that's where our kids were born. And we lived there till 1970 when we built a larger house, and for the two growing kids that we had at that time. And so, you know, our parents were very helpful in our early years because we got married young. We were both 19 when we got married.
And you've been married how many years now?
71 years
71.
married, yeah.
Wow.
December 19th, in fact, like just 6 days right before his birthday. But we're going to explore your love story in a whole separate segment. I'm so excited about it. But Governor, and I wanted to ask you too, as you're sharing your history, here you are, you know, growing up in West Tampa, you go to City Hall and of course then the governor's mansion. Did your parents, or when, did they ever think that this would be your route? Or as a child, did you want to go into politics?
No, I'm sure they didn't. I wasn't sure that I did either. But you know, you look back after it's all over with and you see signs, you know, that perhaps what guides you. For an example, when I was a sixth grader at Tampa Bay Boulevard, I was captain of the patrols. And then back in those days, AAA and the city police department would sponsor kids for the May Day parade in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
And in my school, Tampa Boulevard, I got chosen to be the one to represent the school in Washington, D.C. and participate in the May Day parade on Pennsylvania Avenue. So all the kids from the city of Tampa, elementary, in the city, not the county, had to be in the city, one from each school. We went by train with Sergeant Genesta, who was a police officer.
Still remember his name. That's so cool.
As our guide and security person. We were there like 4 days, maybe 3 nights and 4 days. And went into the White House at that age. And the White House, you could just walk in those days. There was no
How
security.
times have changed, right?
And we were able to go into all the Department of Interior building, the Secretary of State building, all that. Again, there was no real whatever. So then comes the parade. And the Tampa kids were marching behind Dwight D. Eisenhower,
Wow.
who had just returned from Europe after the Second World War. And there on the reviewing stand was President Harry S. Truman. So at a very young age, I see our sitting president and a president who would come later in my life.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And while at elementary school, they back in those days, they used to celebrate May Day, maypole dancing and all that, until the communists kind of took over the holiday, and all of a sudden May Day was gone in the United States. And so I got elected twice in elementary school as a May Day king. So that was my first election.
That's
the
cool.
first grade and the 5th grade.
Okay, so you ran a business, you were very successful, you're a restaurateur, you decided to get into politics, you run for mayor of Tampa, and then later you run for governor of Florida, and then after that you were appointed the United States drug czar. You've had just such an amazing career in public service. What's your favorite memory from your time in public service?
Yeah, they're very similar in many ways, but in the day-to-day operation, it's quite different. Tampa has a strong mayor system. So you're the city manager, the CEO of the city. It's full-time. And you're running a business. You got water, you got sewer, you got solid waste, you got police, you got fire. These are all services directly to the public. And the size of the city at that time was just under 300,000. So no one had to tell you what was going on. You saw it yourself. And if something wasn't going right, a citizen was going to tell you when out to eat somewhere.
Right.
So that you didn't need staff telling you what was going right or wrong, because you were feeling it, you were a part of it, you saw it every freaking day. Wow. And I was always accessible, always listed my phone number. I never took my phone number off the directory. All the years I was in public life.
Isn't that something? I mean, for anybody to see.
Anybody, yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Well,
And therefore, there was an immediacy, and here you didn't deal with lobbyists, you dealt with citizens. You know, you could show up at City Hall, it's quite easy. Now, it's not easy to get to Tallahassee, and certainly not easy to get to Washington, to pursue something. So, and that's where the lobbyists come in, which I've done that as well, and it's an honorable profession in my view. So the city is, you're running a business, basically what it is. Counties have a little bit different jurisdiction. They got some social services they have to deal with, and their agenda is similar to the city, but it has a few added duties that the state has given them. Governor is, again, now you start getting away from where the people are. In the state of Florida, even when I was governor, it was like 14 million people, so it was not a small state. It's a pretty long state in terms of moving around, so you can't be everywhere very often. Right. So you just have to pick your shots where you go and where you appear. And you depend a lot on news clippings back then. Oh. Every morning at the governor's mansion, there was a stack of news clipping about that thick already. And there was anything related to Florida, to me, or to any of my staff was always in that stack. So that's how you got your information, was going good or bad.
And you would read it, like
while
every day.
You would glance, otherwise you spend the whole day. Back there was a lot of newspapers back there, and a lot of copy, and not like it is today. Yeah. And but that's how you sort of got your briefing in the morning, early in the morning. Because back then, I used to jog, and I used to go jogging at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So
good for you, Governor.
Yeah, and so I was ready to go as soon as I got back. I cleaned up, dressed up, went to the office I had in the mansion. and began reading the clips and to see which may be a real hot item. I'm going to have to deal with the press that day because of this, whatever hot item happens somewhere, bridge collapses, whatever it could be. You don't know what it's going to be. Things happen all the time. And so it was more distance. Obviously, when I got to Washington, it's even more distance.
Right.
Now you really depend on communications and people briefing you and whatever.
About the Washington, just really quickly, I think it's so interesting. Christopher and I were talking about it. How, of course, George W. Bush made you the national drug czar.
Right.
But you were you were the governor that appointed for the first time ever a state drug czar.
That's correct, the first one. And Florida back then, we were an importer of drugs all through and particularly on the Gulf side of the state. You had so many inlets that are unpopulated. So it was an import state of narcotics, cocaine basically in those days, from South America and Central America. So we had to act more rapidly here probably than most other states, other than maybe along the border in Texas and Arizona and New Mexico. So that's why I appointed so early, our drug czar, because we were having obviously a lot of problems with importation. Unfortunately, we had some people in public life that had made some money that were in small counties along the coast, and they turned a deaf ear and turned blind, waiting for another little airplane to land on a isolated state highway. And so for that reason, I got involved with the drug issue on an early stage.
Isn't that something?
Fantastic. Governor, what do you see as the number one issue facing the state of Florida today?
How to handle growth, without any doubt. And if you're not careful how you handle it, you're going to destroy a lot of natural resources. Transportation will remain an issue forevermore. I don't know of any state or any city or any county that becomes large in population, large in density, that has solved the transportation problem. You improve an intersection, that only means more people go to the intersection, which later, later requires further improvement. But at some point, you run out of right of way, and that's the end of that improvement in that particular location. So we just have to learn about that. And I'm native, so I've seen it go from a 2-lane system to a 4- and 6-lane system. I can remember with my dad fishing off the high span on Highway 60 going from Hillsborough to Pinellas County. There was hardly any traffic. Cars were narrow. You could stand on the bridge and fish, and you weren't going to get hit by anybody. I dare you to get on that thing now, with the size and speed of the vehicles of today. So things have changed, and Florida is a car state. I'm not sure that rail, I know in my lifetime it ain't gonna happen. And Miami came the closest to trying it. They've got an elevated system there in Dade County. I think Jacksonville tried it, and I think that collapsed. That's gone. And so I don't see that in the future anytime soon. Transit has to be subsidized. And that's true everywhere. That's not really in our cities. People just like cars. They like the independence. If you have a child and you're working, the school calls your child sick, you want to be able to get in your car and go get the child. And so it's the whole concept of how we work and how we live is not conducive for public transportation. So you do have to provide it because there are people that don't have vehicles. And this is the only way they're going to get to work, the only way they're going to get anywhere. So you just can't say we're not going to have it. You got to have it. You got to be as efficient as you can and be as cost conscious as possible, but you've got to have it. You just can't do without it.
That's such an interesting point. You also, though, nationally recognized too for all your conservation efforts. To this day, I don't know if there's another governor that has done everything that you did, and those programs are still implemented.
Right.
To this day, Governor, can you say, what made you so passionate about that?
Where I grew up there in West Tampa was an area called Los 100, which means 100, between Columbus Drive and Tampa Bay. and the streets were dirt, very few paved streets, sparsely populated, a lot of wildlife. I lived 2 blocks from the river. So I grew up in a real good environmental situation. Rabbits running, quail, and all the rest. And during the Second World War, my family had like about an acre. They planted vegetables, and we had a cow, we had chickens, and all that, because everything was rationed. So that you were encouraged to have what they call victory gardens. And we also had hay for the cow that the family owned. So that's sort of how I grew up, which was obviously environment was all around me.
Right.
You know, there was a lot of wetlands left before somebody filled them up to build something. So that was my neighborhood. So then I got on Swift-Mud Board. Governor Reuben Askew appointed me in 1975 to serve there and became the vice chair. So I had dealt with permitting and protecting lake levels and all the usual things. We bought land to preserve it and have well fields as well. So then I got elected mayor. And at that time, right before I got elected, the Department of Environmental Regulation has shut down the city's incinerator for its emissions. So all garbage had to be trucked way out there to a dump that the city had behind the Taylor landfill, and which was very expensive because the trucks had to go a long run, so you had to hire more trucks, you had to have more employees. So I had heard about refuse to energy plants, and so went to Europe and looked at some of them, came back and decided we needed a refuse to energy plant.
Isn't that something?
And we put out a bid for those few companies in America that were building them. I think it was Waste Management that got the contract to build it and operate it. And at the same time, the tertiary treatment plant that Bill Poe had built had not been totally finished when his term was up. So it was my job to bring it to an end, which didn't need much at that time. In fact, it was already functioning. But instead of shutting down the old wastewater treatment plant, I had to convert it into a power unit, getting the methane gas to generate the power and give that power to the tertiary treatment plant. So I started my environmental thing in government with the city of Tampa, with refuse to energy, the tertiary treatment plant, and adding the power unit for the tertiary treatment plant. So I get elected governor, and there was some discussion about protecting our wetlands, the rivers in particular, and lakes. And so there's a bill being bandied around, so I injected myself into the debate, and I said, I'm very supportive, but you have to include some of the state's bay areas where you have freshwater outfall that contaminates the bays, like Tampa Bay. Obviously, I want to get Tampa Bay included in the legislation. And so, of course, there's a lot of debate. And you have to remember, when I got elected, over 2/3 of the House was Democrat. But I had a coalition of Republicans and Democrats in the Senate, and had ousted the Democrats who were going to lead the Senate in '87. But the coalition ousted them and placed a coalition of Republicans and Democrats to run the Senate. So that was my go-to house. It's either to block something or to get something.
Going,
Isn't that something, though?
scary.
Yes.
And so after a lot of negotiations, it was agreed that bays would be put in there, and there would be no new agency, because they wanted a new agency, and there were already enough agency. I didn't want another agency. They said there'll be no new agencies.
Good.
The water management boards are going to carry this out. And of course, I was familiar with the boards because I was a member of the board.
Right.
So that's how the water management boards ended up protecting surface water and the bays around the state of Florida.
Well, it goes back to what you said at the very beginning of our conversation, and you were talking about when we asked you about, did you know as a child? And then you look back and you look at the signs and what shapes you. and to talk about, with the cow and the hay and what you grew up in.
Preserving it.
Yes, and that shaped you, and it's.
Yeah, you get shaped all along the way. When I was in high school in the 11th grade, I got like the homecoming queen as well. So I had 3 of those royalties. But there was no legislation on solid waste, so people would just dump in where they wanted and burn it wherever they wanted. So I recommended the passage of a solid waste law, and also you cannot dispose of batteries other than the prescribed way. So when I got a new battery, you had a $1 charge that went to pay for that, and there was also no waste. Runoff water was not treated as a utility. So therefore, local governments could not bond against it with a revenue source because it was not a utility. So I had a law passed making runoff water a utility. So cities and counties can bond if they wanted to for it. But the big one was Preservation 2000.
Yes.
Would you say that your legacy in your mind is your conservation efforts as governor?
Yeah, that's probably where I had the most legislation passed. I implemented the lottery. I did prepaid tuition, which.
Did you really? So you implemented the lottery, Governor?
He's made a lot of millionaires.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, oddly enough, when I ran for governor, lottery and gambling was on the ballot because the Constitution prohibited it, and I was not for either one of them. And I said it publicly in the campaign. Casino gambling did not pass. Lottery did. So it fell to my administration to implement it, and which we did. And the other thing is created Spaceport Florida. Now you read about it a lot.
Right.
But so I had the law passed, creating a commission to run Spaceport Florida. And there was a little other spaceport up around the Panhandle that never worked out. Where supposedly rockets could be tested out into the Gulf, and that didn't play out. But Spaceport now is a major activity there in the Atlantic side of the state. But the big one was Preservation 2000.
Yeah, and what about also the law and order side? You were also the governor, right, when Ted Bundy was.
Yeah, that one's big. Yeah.
And
well, here's the other thing. About government's life is full of unscheduled events, and that's what that makes you or breaks you. Things that come out you didn't plan on how you want to handle it. It's just there. So, in running for governor, the subject of crowded prisons never came up. I get elected, and the next thing I know is the federal government had taken over the prison system.
The federal government had.
Yeah, because prisons were out in tents, not properly housed, and all the rest of it. So all of a sudden, I've got the federal system kind of telling us how the prison system had to be run. So I had to engage in a massive prison building, which I didn't anticipate having to do or to deal with. And we got it done, and we got ourselves finally, after a couple of years, we got ourselves released from the federal mandate on how to run a prison. But it's like I said, life is full of unscheduled events, and that certainly was an unscheduled event. But the interesting part about when I came up with Preservation 2000, at that time we had a Department of Natural Resources and a Department of Environmental Regulation. They changed the name now to DEP. And one answer to the governor cabinet, which had a bunch of agencies. So it was sort of a weak form of governor because you had all these agencies coming to the governor cabinet instead of the governor. And one of them was the one acquiring land. And not every, but a lot of the cabinet meetings, they come to about $5 million here, $2 million there. It was not an impact system. And some months nothing, nothing was bought. So being a former mayor, I was used to bonding to do big projects that you could do them now, not tomorrow. And everybody that comes in begins to pay for it, not just who were there at the moment that you spend the money. They say, well, you're paying interest, true, but the longer you wait, the more something costs. So it's not like you're saving really the money from the interest because things get more expensive, or maybe not even available because it's been used for something else. So I came up and we called it Preservation 2000 because it was 10 years up to the year 2000. That's how I got its name. Huh. And I came up with a plan that we would spend $300 million a year by bonding, and the debt service would be the growth through the state's permitting for development, the documentary stamps. The growth of documentary stamps would pay for the debt service of the bonds. And of course, we were growing a lot, so there was a lot of documentary stamp revenue coming in. At first, the legislature didn't like it because they like to appropriate annually, and it was a 10-year program. The proposal was a 10-year program, $3 billion. And so the debate was that they didn't want to lose control of the annual appropriation. So I said, well, it's this way or the highway.
Got it done.
If they wanted to preserve land, they just didn't want to do it the way that I had proposed it, and I knew how it was from my 3 years already in office. There was a nickel and dime kind of conservation program. So finally, as the session was running out, they realized it was either this way or no way, and they agreed to it. So 10 years later, $3 billion later, 1,550,000 acres were bought.
Wow, that is fantastic.
That's a great legacy.
So
I know, the
I got a
foresight.
National Conservation Award, obviously, for that initiative.
And it's so interesting because I know so many people nowadays are so focused, right, on conservation, the environment. During that time, and I know we've always cared about it, but for you to have the foresight at that time when it wasn't such
cool.
Yes, right. I was going to use, and I was like, oh, but this is the governor. Like, it wasn't as sexy then,
Well, and the thing was, they didn't expect a Republican governor to come up with that because they always get knocking the Republican governor office holders that they're not sensitive to the environment. Right. So for me as a Republican to come out,
we like clean water and fresh air just as much as the Democrats do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, that's a good segue to national politics. We're all well aware of the current environment politically that we've seen for the last, dozen years or so. What are your thoughts on where we are as a country from a national political standpoint today?
Well, how politics functions is a lot different than in my day. And I always like to say, look, in my day, there was no cell phones. There was no cable, basically. There was, of course, dependent. You were dependent on verbal communication, not text and emails. You raised money eye to eye, not sending out constant text messages and whatever it is. So it's more of a personal. The other thing that's much different than today is that if you wanted to call it an attack ad, it was on policy. Today, attacks ads are always personal.
Right.
I don't recall profanity in all the years that I was in public life. Not even the word damn or hell, quite frankly. I never got attacked personally, and I never attacked anybody personally. I mean, you can go back to, historically speaking, it just wasn't the way it was done. Families were left alone. Today, it's a wild west in politics. Would I do it today's environment? Probably not. I'm not that type to get out there to engage in that kind of a bare knuckle fight.
And Governor, that's an interesting point. Sarina, I, as a political consultant for over 20 years, used to hear this all the time when I was talking to people who were thinking about running for public office, and good people that want to serve just don't want to run because of all the garbage that they get subjected to. And if they can't dig up dirt on you, they'll make it up.
That's correct. And what you end up with is a different kind of a candidate.
Yeah, for sure. Different caliber.
But I think some of the division that we see now often is created by all the talking heads that are out there. I mean, it's constant. You have three full-time news cable networks, and it's a constant all day. If there's not a problem, they create one by the questions they ask.
Right. No, 100%. And anchors have opinions. They shouldn't have opinions.
Right.
I mean,
and then politicians are all gasping for air. I need to be recognized. Right. I need to get my story out. And how outrageous can I get to be heard? So it's totally different than the politics that I engaged in. Beginning, quite frankly, I first surfaced politically in the 1960s, and left it in '93. The years that I were with law firms, I did engage in government stuff and did raise money and stuff like that, but didn't participate in any speech making or actual campaigning. Right. It was just on the fundraising side. So it's very combative now, and policy is almost like a secondary thing. The whole thing is I got you, right, of some kind. Mm-hmm. I don't personally like it, the way that it's turned out. Sometimes it's not bad that it's hard to pass something, because sometimes if it's too easy to pass, it may not be good.
That's true about Washington.
So you got to be careful how easy you make things pass. It's not scrutinized enough. It's not debated enough. Not enough people maybe have a say-so before it's passed. So it shouldn't be easy, for it to happen. But it shouldn't be impossible either.
Right. You have an amazing memory. I want to take whatever vitamins you're taking. He recounts all these details and names and stories of people. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
We honestly, we could talk to you forever.
Yeah.
Yes, we could. Well, we appreciate you being here, Governor. Thank you so much.
Well, I enjoyed it. Sometimes you don't reminisce too often anymore. And the people that I always see daily, they see me all the time. So there's no reminiscing there. It's about tomorrow. Where we're going to eat next week, or where we're going to eat the next day.
So, we already heard that story.
Yeah, so I don't do this very often anymore.
Well, we're glad you could join us today. And you're going to stick around for a few minutes, because Karina, we're going to do a love segment.
A love segment.
Oh, okay. All right. That'd be great.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
Here.
Appreciate it. I enjoyed myself immensely. Thank you.
Oh, gosh,
You're welcome
Governor,
anytime.
thank you so much.
Every story shared
adds another heartbeat to Tampa Bay.
From courage to community.
We are so proud to tell the stories that keep our neighborhoods strong.
Thanks for watching The Heartbeat of Tampa Bay. Great.
Oh, thank you.
We love you, Governor.